Question: how have you experienced living in this dual projection field, this life of constant projection? And just to flesh that out, the projection is for the second line, you're just projecting outward. You don't even know that your natural gifts are going into the people. This is where a lot of times that's a lot of the attraction. And then this fifth line is just out front, being attractive visually and physically and literally and knowledge wise, the whole package to everyone else, one way, shape, or form. And then they want something. You can fix something. So what's it like having this thing where I don't know what the hell they want? And the other thing is like, I think I know I might want something, but not that. It's a double projection field. And what's that play out like in your life? People always just can't tell on one end, and you totally see it coming on another.
My mom always was the one that projected the most. It was, you know, what I could do, what I should do, what I was capable of, how great I was. I was just like the best, the genius artist kid. Like I couldn't fail. My mom always projected on me more than anyone, and still does.
Yeah, I give off a aura sometimes of intelligence. I credit the 14th son of the 14th gate that I was blessed with, and so competence is the gift state according to the gene keys. And so when I'm in the groove or when I'm working or talking and stuff like that, I can give off an air of competence or intelligence. And so my family, like my mom and my dad, my mom especially, like that's kind of like my wounded relationship. And it's like, you're so smart. Why this? You are so smart. You know, why did you fail at this? Or why did you that? So it's like, as I've grown older and stuff like that, the key is like, for me, maintaining the projection field is like, as long as they don't realize I'm smart, the projection field is off. But once they realize I'm intelligent, it's fair game. And that's like kind of in any situation. So it's been kind of this like, we'll say wounding or whatever from this, like, you're so smart, why are you failing so bad or whatever. That's just kind of like, that's what breaks the projection field barrier for me. It's just like, once I stand out for that, there's something I can do for them.
I feel like it kind of makes sense for us to like talk about what gates our fifth lines are in, or second lines too. But I mean, like,
yeah,
you know, like I'm the 22 personality.
Here's what all your
like
crosses
people
are.
project grace on me, right? I'm cross of informing, so it's like my my son is 5.2, which is directness. I mean 5.5, sorry, which is directness, and then my design son is 12.2, which is, I don't remember what the second line is, but basically like people project grace on me, you know, and then if I'm disgraceful and if I'm ungraceful, you know, if I do something inappropriate or just a total some sort of gaffe or some sort of thing, it's like that's when the projection field is broken in a way, you know. It's like that's the disappointment. He wasn't graceful.
Well, I don't know all of my gates and all of that information. I think, Carrie Ann, you had shared in the beginning that you're also in the baby stages. So I, just from what I do know with my 5-2, that there is this pedestaling that happens a lot of the times, and then we get crucified. So it's like, you know, there's this expectation that you're like perfect and that you're not human and that you don't make mistakes. And so I've definitely experienced that in my life with people. And so what's helped with that is just really setting a foundation of there is no hierarchy here. We are here. We're on this path together, no matter what type of relationship we're in, whether they're a client or a friend, just really setting that stage as much as possible. And that's been helpful. Also keeping boundaries of not having, not letting people fully in, not in a way of like armor, but just really having my boundaries of what I'm available for how intimate the relationship is. Because I've noticed that when I fully let people in and it wasn't a full yes for me, or they're not fully, I can see that there's some pedestaling that's happening, then it always ends up like in a place where it's like, my heart's broken. This hurts so bad. So yeah, it's been boundaries, and then also just setting a foundation of like, we're cool, we're here together. And some people go along with that, and then some people will still put me on a pedestal, and I can't change that. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that the pedestal thing, that's happened my entire life. And the boundaries now, and I know I'm the right angle,
Left ankle.
Yeah.
Wait, okay,
Left angle, 5 or
cross
6
of
is left.
uncertainty. Yeah.
I'm also left angle cross of uncertainty.
Oh yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Is your son in the 14th or the 8th? Huh?
My son is in the 8th, 8.5.
So you're Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
You have each other's half birthdays.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I'm 14. I'm in the 14.5. Yep. So May 21st.
I'm May
Fish.
20th. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
May
I'm
20th.
November 21st. It's my birthday.
Okay. Yeah. I experience people, I guess, projecting what they think I am, and then when they find out I am like human, they're disappointed. Oh, I've had people just completely cut me off, and I don't even understand why, because I didn't live up to some expectation that they had. It's interesting. It's interesting. And now I try to be very selective on who I spend my time with. I feel like it's not always something I can control, because, if I'm hanging out with people that I feel like I have to hang out with, I feel like I can't really control that sometimes, but I don't even know if that's part of the question, but
I feel like a big thing
That's
is
awesome.
wearing out my welcome. It's like people, you don't want to overdo yourself on people. So you kind of, like, that'll happen to me with jobs. Like I'll at first I'll be like, who is this guy? He's got all these, he's making things better. He fixed that thing and he came up with a new faster way to do this. And he came up with this cool recipe and everything's, he's really interesting and cool and fun to have around. And then like there'll come a day when I'm too much for everyone and I'm overwhelming and I'm no longer cool. And I'm like, and I end up losing my job, eventually. And it's, it's that burning at the stake. And then it's also that, Ra would say seduce and leave. Like you it's the seduction, and then you can't keep on doing it. So you kind of got to like remain mysterious, or like people get sick of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think remaining mysterious can be coping, if we want to call that mechanism for dealing with like the 5-2 projection field. I also think a lot of people, the way I really think about the projection field, because like I said, I try to really manage expectations and present like an authentic version of myself that at least to the extent that people can understand with the 5-2 projection field. Sorry. But people project onto me, and I wonder if you guys experience that too, where it's like, let's say someone is having like a fight with their best friend, that irritation they're feeling with their best friend will come out in their tone with me, and stuff like that, where people will kind of like project what's going on in their life into our interaction, or like into talking to me about it or something like that. So, or like they're mad at someone else, but like I'm taking the brunt of it. I feel like that happens a lot in this projection field. I don't know if you guys experience that too.
Are you open emotionally?
Yes. Yep. I'm a splenic projector. So I have my spleen, my ego, and my G center. That's it.
Maybe you just think people are, maybe you're feeling their emotions as your own, and
It could be,
sensing
yeah,
that
the
as like a
energy.
projection.
Could be that, yeah.
Awesome. I was listening to this. It's just fascinating. And the reserved way in which this group is talking, it's like it's not measured. It's not measured. It's just practical. So that whole thing you guys were talking about, that practicality, it's so important. Get in and get out. Um, the person of consequence. If you just keep that little notion, hey, I'm a person of consequence. You step in, and then suddenly you yourself want to step out. You've got an instant way out. The hermit says the successful sidestepping of others' behavioral requirements of you, through just getting out, isolation or going away. So it's cool. And Carrie, cross of the plane, very much about what you described. It's so funny how we keynote ourselves, and we don't even realize it. It's amazing. Cross of the plane is all about seeing through the mundane to the spiritual and the amazing. So and universalizing that onto the other. So next question. This is cool. Have you noticed? You guys have already been speaking about this. So, but speak more to this heretical nature, this thing that gets you guys burned at the stake, that gets you guys talked about behind your back, reputation sullied, just whatever moments of it, to small degrees, big degrees. But have you noticed the heretic needing to call out its own hermit's gifts? Like someone else can't quite call it out. You have to. Doesn't matter what someone else says. And sort of how have you learned to basically discover your own gifts then? And I mean, that's really a question that's hard to answer, but just answer it best you can. Tell us about this heresy where people burn you at the stake and how you've measured your own gifts because of having to call your own self out.
The calling myself out thing is a big not problem, but it's one of these very noticeable things because you especially having so many second lines and being such a hermit, I wish somebody would call me out, and it turns into this just waiting for the mutation kind of thing where I find myself being like not knowing what to do, and it's like, okay, well, I have to figure it out. I'm the manifestor. I have to initiate something, and I have to call myself out in order to do it. And it can be very it can seem like complete stagnation sometimes, and then just sort of like, what am I supposed to do? Sometimes it's just waiting forever.
Yeah. For me, when it comes to the calling out, I feel like the way I see it working for 5-2s, and I can only speak from my own experience, of course, but we're the only one that really knows our own gifts. Like, we're the one that has that kind of intimate knowledge, like what we are good at, what our abilities are, like what we can actually bring to the table, not what people want to bring us to the table. Like, what can we actually bring in a way that will be the most productive for everyone? And so I feel like a lot of we call out our own gifts or our own motivation because like we know what we bring, we know what we can bring, we know what they're looking for, but what we can bring that is more true to who we are and stuff like that. And for me, my heresy has really, I resonate so hard with the heresy. I'm very heretical against institutions. When it comes to like individual people or groups or stuff like that, not so much. But when it comes to places that have authority or places that have influence, to me, I think need the most heretics, need the most kind of heresy surrounding them to keep them in check, keep them balanced, keep them functioning for the good of everyone. But yeah, I really resonate with heretics and being able to I know a way to frame this argument. So I like to be productive too. Like, I get into political discussions on both sides of the aisle and stuff like that. And I'm really successful in those because I know how to have these kind of contentious, I think is what I'm looking for, discussions in a productive way. I don't like conflict. I hate conflict, but I love debate. Love it. And so it's keeping it in that debate, that like intellectual sparring, and not taking it into conflict. And I think that when you can be a heretic in a way that keeps it productive at the debate level instead of the conflict level, people can disagree, people can have different views, but it's a matter of like the harmony or disharmony of it. So like for me, the best, like the most productive form of heresy is being able to like challenge and debate in such a way that doesn't like hurt people's egos.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, the 5 line, the Heretic, has been just calls out the hermit within me from all my lived experiences, from things that I've experienced that is not okay, that have really created this sacred rage within me and created this deep need for healing. And then also just a declaration of, in my own way, to be able to like change that and be able to lead the way for others, to be able to have that permission to also like choose different and not be in a certain box of what society or their family or religion has decided. And so that's been my life purpose, is just really going into my own healing around things that just have created resistance and wounds and trauma, and being able to go through my process of healing and then creating opportunities for others to be able to, in their own unique life stories, whether it's similar to mine or completely different, be able to create a space for people to be able to start healing that and choosing what feels aligned for them. So yeah, that's my answer.
I sometimes have a hard time like identifying heresy as heresy. I think a lot of it has to do with just in aura, just like the way that I kind of affect people, and the kind of like
Mm-hmm.
like on a daily basis, like little heretical things I might say, little shocking things I might do like around people. But I feel like I more identify with like these ideas of like of practical solutions and universalization. Like I feel like that walks hand in hand with the heresy. Like to be heretical is to like change something like on some big scale. It's like to universalize an idea or a thought or a creative thing that no one's seen before. That's like, to me, that's kind of the heresy, is like it carries this universalization and this new sort of way of understanding something or applying something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I think putting anything new out there, regardless of what it is, can be seen as a form of heresy, because it's something different than the established norm. It's something different. Anything that's different is going to be like kind of heresy at first, because people don't know how to react to it yet, or it's new and it just has an impact that isn't understood or completely felt yet. And so, yeah, I see a lot with what you're saying.
And then when it's practical, they can't deny it, and even the tribe has to accept it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I notice as we wake up to our nature, and this profile will be a lot that sees it. But Dave, you were pointing out that whole thing about, it's like, if I stick around too long, I'm too much. I'm too much. I'm great. Everyone loves me. And then all of a sudden they don't, or it's just not the same. And as you wake up into your nature, just certain ways, or come into your own power, that all by itself, as a 2-4, I came into my own power and people found it annoying, because human design was a heresy at the time, all those years ago. But when it happens to you guys, it really is like bringing something that, as soon as you bring yourself, it's something that then they don't like after a little while, because they can't control it. And it's a deep wounding place to
Well, that's a good
recognize.
point.
Yeah, they can't control it. And then you're a manifestor, can't be controlled anyways, ego or not, doesn't matter. And generators can't be controlled, because you got to ask them. And if they don't get a yes, if they don't have that energy for it, then they're faking it and it's just not the same, or they just won't do it. You guys are, that 5-2 is the ultimate mule. I thought the 2-4
projector is penetrating you. Also, they're like, their aura is just getting into. It's like,
Yep. And the reflector sampling everything, you know what I mean? It's like, it's literally pulling in from the other what they are, when the other doesn't even know that that's what's going on, but they can feel it. As 5-2 is something that I have noticed is the definition of the mule. If you try to pull it to water and it's not thirsty, everyone else has their version of kicking and screaming. You guys have your version of just it doesn't even have to kick and scream. I have to kick and scream, you know what I mean? But you guys just get out of the way. So next question. have you experienced initial projections and feelings of people that putting their thing on you being positive? So first you feel it positive, and then have you felt the moment? And can you speak to even one example where you noticed the moment where it turned negative, it shifts? And what was that like? And maybe you even didn't notice that you were noticing, but later you realize, aha, I totally saw it. So it comes on good. You're all so bright and shiny. Yay. And then after a little while, an hour, a day, a week, whatever it is, it's like you're less than bright and shiny. And at some point, you'll have noticed the shift. And inside of you, it would bring up stuff. So what did it bring up when that took place? If you can have an example.
I have an example. I was in a leadership position in a multi-level marketing company, and I had this group, and it was created for us to like share our do personal growth work and share what was going on with us. And I guess one of the people in there just had put me up. It was kind of going back to the pedestal thing, put me up on this pedestal, and I had shared something very real that I was feeling. And I guess that bothered her that she was like, wow, I had no idea you felt that way. I had no idea you had, it was basically saying that I have confidence issues. And she just was so taken aback, but not in a like, wow, I would have never guessed that kind of a way, kind of like in a way that she was disappointed in me for sharing that. And she was just different towards me after that. And I was like, sorry, I never said I was a guru. Like, I do not want to be anybody's guru. And that just was a more recent example. So ever since that happened, I am like, nope, I am no guru. Like, and I almost purposely stepped back. Like, nope, not doing that anymore. So.
I'll share a story as well. It's very similar to yours, Carrie Ann, in just that there's a pedestal situation where it was a client of mine, and she just really just everything that I shared, she was just absorbing it, and just you could feel that energy of just, wow, you just know so much, and I wish I could be like you kind of energy. And there was a point where I had to speak a boundary to her that was not something that she received very well. And then it's just that classic crucify. I mean, I was just horrible. Just lots of just really hurtful things that were reflected back to me. And just being so sensitive, it was really difficult for me. And then the recovering people pleaser, it's like, it's not what I was wanting. My intention was pure, and just being able to really support her and her process of becoming a facilitator. And yeah, it just didn't end well at all. And at the same time, what I've realized in those situations, because I've been in that quite a few times with people, not exactly like that, but just that same kind of scenario where it's like, this hurts so bad. And I don't this doesn't feel good, that it went from like, the pedestal, which doesn't feel good at all for me. I notice that, and it doesn't feel good. Like I can feel that, like, you're better than me kind of energy. And so that doesn't feel good. And then it really doesn't feel good when they're just really don't like you and have a certain opinion of you going forward. But what I've realized is that I get a look at that of like, what can I learn from this, of like things that I can discern when it comes to the relationship dynamic. Like, what can I do going forward if I notice that starting to come up? There's different things that I can pull from those experiences so that it's not so just heartbreaking. Like, it gets to be heartbreaking, and also lessons that I get to learn to be able to navigate relationships in a better, cleaner way going forward. And I don't want to go into those experiences again. So that's why I want to just look at, okay, what could I do differently? And what am I learning from this dynamic that I could like change? And then also like understanding myself more. So I was more rooted in my truth from that whole experience. Or, hey, I need to change that thing. Like they showed that to me. And thank you so much for letting me know, like, I need to shift this. So I always improve. That's the intention after those kinds of experiences, rather than have it like turn me salty.
I feel like a lot of times it happens
Yep.
in slow motion, where it's like the paranoia, which is like another part of the fifth line experience. You know, it's like you're used to being projected on, having those expectations, and then being burned at the stake. So you're like expecting it to happen, and it's like before it even becomes like clear, it's you're already sort of like stewing in it, and it's like you can feel like this fear of like that you've already been burned at the stake. And like the times it's happened to me, it's usually like the times I can really think of it as like major things in my life was at jobs. And it always, it might even be a self-fulfilling prophecy sometimes, where it's like, first I just think that everyone is like, doesn't like me anymore. And then eventually it like turns into a problem, you know?
I've been lucky in a lot of respects when it comes to that. You know, if I generally stay in a positive projection field, if I start getting negative projections, I did something or I know why. Like, it's not something that comes by surprise. It's not about like me becoming vulnerable and having it backfiring. I don't have that often, thankfully. It sounds very 5-2, and like what you guys have been describing is like this vulnerability backfiring, or people like not having good reason. I've been pretty lucky in that respect. Where I do have it, like what I think of when I first saw this question is, you know, I consider myself to just be very average when it comes to attractiveness and stuff like that. I have a 59th stellium, which is 59.2. My design sun, Mars, Venus, and Moon are all in the 59th. So, which is like the intimacy gate, it's part of that. And so I can tell when the projection field, when I'm talking with someone, usually someone I don't know that well or whatever, I can tell when I can tell the moment when it's like all of a sudden he's like into me kind of thing. Like he's trying to take me home that night, when it shifts from just a friendly exchange to, oh, he wants to take me home. Like I hate that. Cause I'm a very intimate person because of, you know, the 59th or whatever. I have like a very open and engaging kind of personality when I interact with others. Plus the projector, the one-on-one thing is very enigmatic and, you know, attractive to them. But yeah, for me, like when it comes to a shift in the projection field, is that when I can sense it, it's when it goes from like, oh, we're having a friendly exchange to what are we doing tonight? And it's like, oh no.
This is also informative in that being burned at the stake is it's just a metaphor. One of the things I noticed, and I tell all fifth lines, is you're already
Thank God it's just a metaphor.
Yeah, well, it's an important metaphor, but yeah, and hopefully people aren't actually getting burned. But I just know that one
Sorry to
thing
interrupt.
it's all good, bro. That I pointed out to all fifth lines as I read for them is you're already practical, so just start going about the business of saying they're all projecting on me. They never don't, and the ones that I'm closest to have finally cut through it, so they love me the way I am. And everyone else, I get to pick and choose a la carte. Do I want this opportunity? Do I want that one? They're all projecting on you. So just, you know, call it the bargain basement of where the next opportunity is. And it helps you sort of put it into a different light. And plus, it's who you're not. In other words, whatever they're projecting, it's not you. It's all them, 100% them. And there's nothing in you that actually needs to change. But I think this is the final question. Bonding strategy. Yeah, and you were just speaking to that, weren't you? So describe your experience with this bonding strategy. Now it's a dual bonding strategy. The seducer or seduced, basically the chase in a sense, that's the attractive part. The femme fatale and the Casanova is what the line is called. And so that's one end. And then on the other end, it's like, peekaboo, I'm hiding, because there's a shyness. And if it's too bold up front, it doesn't work. It's supposed to be shy and have a little bit of shell that has to get, clawed into a little bit before there can be any intimacy. This isn't bonding, dating someone, whatever, falling in love, all of these things. And so on one end is Marco Polo, and on the other end is just like, I'm not saying anything and he won't find me. You know what I mean? A shyness that is important, and it gives way to boldness.
I love that dynamic. Like that duality is awesome. It's fun to hang out in that ping pong game. I love it.
The seducer seduced or shyness boldness?
Well, I guess both.
Both.
Yeah. The
Mhm.
seduction thing though is a lot of fun. Though. And not like literally like sexual seduction, but it's just I can see myself doing it, like when I go to the pharmacy or whatever. It's like when I'm out there like talking to people, like there's this energy, this like fun excitement that I'll get of this, like it's a seduction, or the other way around too. It's really fun to have someone do it to you too, but it's like it's this back and forth. It's like this feeding, the two feed each other, and I like it. I like that energy.
Mhm. To me, it feels playful, and when when I have a partner that can do that, then it's as well that it's not so like overbearing or like really reserved, where they have a balance of the two, and it just
Exactly.
kind of toggles between the two. That's
Yeah.
really fun for me. And my husband, that's how we met, and that was just kind of our relationship dynamic of both of us kind of playing in the seduced and the seducer. So yeah, I enjoy that. And when somebody is just too overpowering, it's just like, that's like, it's too much for me. I don't really like, it's like, well, now this isn't fun.
Right.
And then if they're way too shy and reserved, it's like, do you even like, are you into me, or are you just, and it's not super sexy if they don't have that confidence. So I kind of like to play in the two as well.
For me, it kind of works like in succession. So I go through the shyness, boldness stage with people, and then I go to the seducer, seduced. So like a good example is like with my coworkers, like thinking of like friendships and like intimacy in the friendship way. I just got a job at a new restaurant a few months ago, and it took me a few months before I started like really talking to people. So I was observing them, like reading their energy. Like I try to, wait to get invited into conversation and stuff like that. Just like being very, so I have a big personality, and you would never be able to guess it if you just were like interact with me for 5 minutes. And so I'm very shy at first. But if you ever worked in a kitchen before, you know that like it can get a little bawdy, a little inappropriate and stuff like that. Not necessarily like in a toxic way, but just like in a funny way. And so it was like I had the shyness for a long time, and then all of a sudden, like I understood my coworkers and like their boundaries and stuff like that. And I figured out how I could be bold, how I can make that like that joke, that corny like dirty joke or whatever, stuff like that actually making people laugh. Like you have to really understand people's boundaries before you can be bold with them. And so like I'm very shy at first, so I can understand people's boundaries and like where I can meet them at their level, and then I can be like bold and just like weird and just myself, and I can be express myself authentically. And then it gets into seducer, seduced once I go through the shyness, boldness phase. And for me, like I'm a personality queen. Like for me to fall in love, it has to be like I can appreciate good looking people, like I can appreciate a good looking dude, but like it is all about personality for me, like sense of humor, intelligence, stuff like that. And so I need to be seduced over time for me to like really be attracted to someone or whatever. Like I'm attracted to people's intelligence. So it's like to captivate my attention and like that projector penetration that everyone wants so bad, and that like focus, you have to like keep me interested. So you have to seduce me in that way. But in doing so, I can keep a conversation going. I can dive real good and like philosophical and like really cool existential metaphysical stuff. And so like, I can keep it. So it's like, it's a conversation. You have to seduce me in conversation, like interest me in what we're talking about and stuff like that. And then I'll do it right back to you. That's like kind of where my seduction is with conversation.
This is interesting because this is this question, it's like a new concept for me to think about. And I'm like sitting here going back in my life, thinking of examples. And like when you said the shyness, boldness,
Mm-hmm.
and this, like, I'm just kind of, it's marinating in my brain. So I don't really know what to share, because I'm like, wow, I never really thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely, as I scan over the collective of my experiences, I can see where I've been shy and where I've been bold. And yeah, I don't know. I have to think about that.
Yeah, it's so cool to me that you're so new to human design, because like so much of it, like learning about it and stuff like that, like it's really, especially when it resonates with you, it's thinking back on your life and like, where have I done this, or where does this apply? And since it's so fresh to you, like, and there's just so much to learn about your design, and so yeah, it's really cool that you're just like it's like a student right now.
Yeah.
And Holly, as you were sharing your, like, kind of your process, it just, I also was reflecting back on, okay, what has been my experience. And it really, what I am in, I'm in the seduced energy, where it's like, you have to seduce me. I'm going to be more kind of reserved and shy, but not really. My energy is very big and magnetic. So it's like, I can just be sitting there. I don't need to be doing flirty eyes or having conversation or putting myself out there. And it's like, there's a seduction that's happening with me, just like sitting
in your aura.
Yeah.
Your aura is doing it. You can't even help it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I've never been the one that's like, hey, and like having the initiating ever. And I had friends that are like, Carrie, you got it. I'm like, no, I don't. And I won't, because I don't want to. Like, the man needs to like approach me first.
You have to motivate yourself as a spoke.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that was an absolutely riveting conversation. So thank you all for sharing so candidly, and you got, like, your group was just fascinating to watch on so many levels. Like, again, us as hosts, we're seeing the differences between each profile each and every week.